So we're going to get started with the side sliding cargo door, the upper section. Just like before, we're going to put glue on both sides of the installation. As you can see, the Kilmat is already done. So to get started with the installation, just like before, I've already measured my installation to fit, and I'm going to glue both sides of the door panel and the panel of insulation. Now this time I'm going to install the insulation with a black fabric side facing out, like I really should have done everywhere else in the van. But again, like I said before in the previous installation video, I'm not going for heat retention properties. I'm really going for sound dampening or acoustic properties. Now next, the finish panel. I've already wrapped it with the foam and fabric using the same methods you saw me use in the previous panel installation video. In this case, with the upper section or the upper panel, I'm not going to be using the push pin style fasteners because it's really not, doesn't seem to be set up for that. But I'm going to be using screws with decorative grommets. The screws and the grommets did come with the panel installation kit along with the push pin style fasteners, so they're designed to work and blend in with the panel almost just as well as the push pin style. Now for the lower section, which is definitely the trickier section aside from the upper section or anywhere else in the van. The first step really is to remove the factory pushpin fasteners so we can get inside and sound deaden and insulate. The problem here though is that where the panel sits behind the floor of the van here to the right of the step, it's almost impossible to get at that last fastener. So what I ended up doing was just leaving the whole bottom row of fasteners installed and just pulled back the top of the panel. This gave me more than enough room to work inside really. So now that we can see behind the panel, there's a plastic sheet membrane that's sealed to the metal. This seems to act as kind of a moisture barrier to protect wiring and such, but it pulls away and reattaches very easily. Off camera, I've already gone ahead and installed some Kilmat sound deadener and fully insulated the lower section of the door. Again, I use the same methods shown in the previous Kilmat videos and installation video. So now we just have to reattach the plastic moisture barrier and fold the factory outer panel back over top. Note that I didn't reinstall the factory pushpins. You'll see why in the next step. Again, please refer to the previous panel wrapping and installation video on how to finish wrap the panels with foam and fabric. Now I decided to just install the finish panel right over top of the factory panel, and the pushpins that come with the new paneling are actually long enough to go through both panels. So again, make sure to not reinstall the factory pushpin fasteners on the factory panel. Wait until you get the finish panel over top. And for the bottom row of fasteners that were left in on the factory panel, just don't drill through the holes of the finish panel, so those factory push pins on the factory panel underneath will just be covered up nice and clean by the finish panel. And voila! A nicely sound deadened, insulated, and finished sliding cargo door. Now let's move on to the rear cargo doors. Now you're going to need a panel puller or a panel removal tool. If you don't want to scratch up the painted metal door, it's a good idea to wrap it with some masking tape first. Now to start, carefully pull back an edge of the panel with your finger and insert the panel puller and pry back the panel gently until one of the retention pins pops loose. Then with your hand, gently pull the panel back, keeping some pressure while you pop out each pin. You can see here the location of the pins around the perimeter. The trickiest one to get is the one in the center near the speaker grill. So now you get a really good look at the plastic sheet membrane that we talked about earlier. Not to worry though, this membrane peels off pretty easily. It does have the bead of sealant and it goes back on just as easily. Don't take it off all the way, just leave the bottom edge attached so it's easier to reattach and position afterward. So now fitting the Kilmat inside the door cavity can be tricky because there's really not much space to work. The best way I found was just to feel around inside first to get an idea of the open spaces, then guesstimate the size of the Kilmat I would need and just fit it in there piece by piece. Again, it doesn't have to be pretty, it just needs to be in there to do its job. Now to finish the Kilmat, I'm just going to use the same roller I used in my previous Kilmat video. Now for the insulation, and honestly this is probably the easiest part. Again, I'm using the same insulation as I used in the rest of the van, 3M's Thinsulate wool insulation. I'd recommend just tearing the insulation from the back fabric backing and then tearing that into pieces that will fit all the little cavities inside the door. This way you can be sure the whole cavity is insulated. Also, make sure you have enough. I ran slightly short, so I crumpled up the leftover black fabric backing and stuffed it in there too. And that's pretty much it. Now we just have to reattach the plastic moisture barrier membrane and then the outside finish panel, and we're done. Thanks everyone for watching. If you found value in this content, please don't hesitate to give us a like right down below. And as always, please don't hesitate to subscribe to our channel, where you can find much more auto detailing content, and in this case, van building and outfitting content just like this. In our next video, we're going to be wrapping and finishing the rear pillars and archway and installing some nice new rear grab handles. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that future content. As always, I'm Seth with Turner Mobile Detailing, and we'll see you in the next video.